Hi, this is Bobby Kimbrough. Once again, here we again at the Off the Cuffs, sitting here talking. I'm grateful to have one of my good friends just to be present. Today we have with us Sheriff McFadden from Mecklenberg County. Sheriff, I want to welcome you to Forsyth County. I welcome you to the show. I'm glad to have you for a lot of reasons. I want to introduce you to our audience, but at the same time, I want to have a conversation with you. So basically, I'd like for you to just tell the people who you are, tell us about you, tell us a little history about you. I know a lot about you, but I want you to share with us who you are. Just tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, I come out of South Carolina, so you probably hear the Geechee dialect or the Gullah dialect from South Carolina. I joke about it, but my family took a cruise and they ended up in Charleston. And so after that, they moved to the midland parts of South Carolina, came from the low country to mid part, from a small place called Elliott, South Carolina. I think you had a wonderful member of your community who passed, civil rights leader here not long ago, and she was from Elliott. Very small town. Then my parents moved to Sumter, where we basically grew up back and forth going. So a lot of fields, a lot of country boy aspects in it. And then at some point, our parents said it's time to go to college. So I had a lot of college that I want to go to, but I ended up at Johnson C. Smith University, stayed there from 1977 to 1982. Thought I wanted to play football, thought I wanted to do a lot of things. Had a great time there at Johnson C. Smith. Absolutely joined one of the best organizations in the entire universe, and that's Omega Psi Phi fraternity. I'm sure some people may know that. And after that, I joined the Charlotte Mecklenberg Police Department in 1982 and stayed on the streets for 3 years, had a great career on the streets, and then somebody gave me the nod, and I went inside and became a detective after being there 3 years. And after being there about 5 years in the detective bureau working burglaries and robberies, somebody says, why don't you try homicide? So I took that under my belt, and 22 years later, I was still there. 2011, it was time for me to leave. I had a great career in homicide, stayed there and had fun, great group of people, and I left July 31st, and they hired me back September 1st. So I stayed from September 1st until October 31st of 2018. So I put in 37 years with them.
So you had a show called The Homicide Show, right?
Yeah, I did a little work in homicide and cleared a lot of my cases and met a lot of people. And so somebody in New York saw me. They did some research. So ID Discovery came and sat down and talked with me and said, we want you to create you on our show. And so it became known as I Am Homicide. And how we came up with it, this great guy named Gino Demet, he's doing great things out in California now. He's running something out there. And he said, give me a chance. And he gave me a chance and I gave him a chance, and we created I Am Homicide. And it came up because actually people did not know my name. I worked so many cases in Charlotte. They didn't know me by Detective McFadden. They just said that's homicide. When he comes on, that means it's a homicide going. So we took it and we ran with it for a couple of years, and became the first African American law enforcement officer to have his own national and international TV show, and it went well. And then all of a sudden, I butt my head and decided to run for sheriff.
Wow. So let me ask you a question. So what's it like being the sheriff of Mecklenberg County? I joke with you and say the state of Mecklenburg, but the largest county in the state of North Carolina. What's it like being the sheriff in Mecklenburg, in the Queen City, Charlotte?
Some days I realize that I am sheriff, and some days I don't realize I'm sheriff. And some nights, like last night, we had a situation in Charlotte where I left my home, went down to the office, worked about 3 or 4 hours, and then we had this supposedly active shooter, which he came onto a festival and did some shots. And as I was going there, I realized that it was time for me to turn the blue lights on and head across the county. And I found out this is a big county, going from one side of the city to another side. But as I'm riding through and seeing the lights and everything else, and I then went back to saying, this is my county. So sometimes I realize it is my county, and sometimes I just go about my community effort. But it's tough. It's tough running the largest county in the state, 1.5 million, as they say that we are. It's tough.
1.5 million residents in Mecklenberg County.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot of people. About how many people do you have working within the office of the sheriff?
We have about 1,300 people. 1,300 people. Our jail facility is a 3,000-bed facility. Right now, we're averaging at about 1,600 people, which is good. We keep them out of the detention center. And December 1st, Raise the Age is going to come about in North Carolina, which we're going to have the largest juvenile detention center in the state, which they're going to turn one of my facilities into North Carolina's largest juvenile detention center. So it's a lot.
So, I've been following you. I talk to you regularly. We share a lot of conversation, a lot of laughs, some tears. And I've been impressed with a lot of things you're doing down inside the detention center. I see that you have a mental health unit, you have a culinary school, and you have a barber shop. And so, when people hear of that, a culinary school, a barber shop, and people say, well, why do you have that? What's the purpose of a culinary school, mental health unit, and a barber shop? What's the purpose of all of that?
Well, we all talk about criminal justice reform. Mm-hmm. We all talk about recidivism. We all talk about it, and we're all talking about helping our neighbor. And when people ask me, why am I doing all of this, and why am I trying to create all these avenues for these men and women who have allegedly commit crimes, because some of these people have not been convicted, and most of the people that we house in our facilities are waiting for trial. And here's what I simply tell everybody at the end of my conversation. How do you want me to prepare your neighbor? Because these men and women are going to come out of our facilities, and they are going to be someone's neighbor. So I simply says, how do you want me to prepare your neighbor? Do you want him and her always to lift weights and work out and come out buffed and ready to fight, or learn all the necessary tricks of the trades of the dope and the gang and the game inside? No, we want to prepare them for the future, and they are part of our future. So I'm trying to prepare our neighbors to be better neighbors and create better citizens. So that's why I do. I
like that concept, how do you want me to prepare your neighbors? Because you hit it on the head. The men and women that are incarcerated today will be out tomorrow. And the question becomes, how do you want me to prepare them? How do you want them to come back to society? Do you want them to have a skill set? Do you want them to be able to compete in this world of competition? Do you want them to have a skill that will get them gainfully employed? So I applaud you for that. But when I look at Mecklenberg, I've been down there several times. It is a huge place. I've been to your facility. That, too, is a huge place. So tell me, what is it like day-to-day operating in Charlotte?
Well, I try to keep up with you. Let me say that. I look at Forsyth as my ultimate competition, and I don't say that lightly, and I appreciate you even having me here. But people like you, and I say this, and I know this isn't sounds strange, but I try to make sure that you are proud of me. You're proud of what I'm doing, because, we come from a different background, but we, not so much different background, but we come from two different eras. Then again, it's not two different eras. We come from what we know we need to do. It is difficult, but I enjoy every single day of my job. It's the best job I've ever had. It takes me 30 minutes to walk across the street because somebody's coming to talk to me. But my job is to make sure of running my facility that we have human dignity, we treat people fairly. And so it is difficult because everybody doesn't want to get on the bus at the same time. Some people want to look at the bus pass, and like I tell them, you either get on the bus, because this bus is not stopping now. We'll stop at the next bus stop, so if you can jump out and run us down, fine. So it is changing a lot. It's changing the old culture. It is changing the old guard. We don't call our residents inmates. We actually call them residents. We don't call our facility a jail. We call it a detention center / rehabilitation center. And so, of course, we have the old guards and some people there who just have the same mindset.
Well, there's plagiarism, right?
It is.
Because we started that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll let y'all have that one. I'm sure you. Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah, we started. We call them residents and we call it detention center. But it's all right. Go ahead. I'm going to give you that one.
You sure we didn't start that together?
No, we started first. Okay, we started first. We got to be first. Go ahead.
You have a patent?
We're working on it, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll get a patent, so then I'll have it. But it is difficult, and it's difficult because you have different attitudes, you have different people, and I do this thing called Walking Wednesdays. Every Wednesday I get out and just walk. I don't want an appointment. I'm going through all my facilities, talk to everybody. The person that we least believe that is helpful in my facility, they're the best people. I have a gentleman who is 88 years old.
Wow.
He takes care of my lobby and my bathrooms each and every day. I have to make sure that Mr. John is on point every day. I got to make sure that he has his snacks, his coffee, and everything else, because after that, he's going to make sure that there's no fingerprints on my windows and my bathroom are clean. And we think those are small things, but imagine going to the bathroom, there's no tissue.
Wow.
And that's huge. And so running a facility that size, it takes a great staff, which we're still working on staff. We're still working on that great staff. So it is difficult. It's difficult at times.
Well, you know, people heard you say it takes you 30 minutes to walk across the street. I know that to be factual because I've been down there with you and was going across the street with you. You are somewhat of a celebrity, not only just in Charlotte, but in North Carolina. And, you know, we don't have to state the obvious. You're a celebrity because of the work that you do. But then, too, you're a celebrity because of the stance that you made. So I don't want to really go into your stance or why you stand, how you stand. You know, a lot of people probably already know that. But what I like for you to talk about is, what are some of the difficulties that you face since making that stance? How has life changed since making that stance?
Well, let me put it a couple of ways, and we can talk about this. It has changed drastically. People who I thought that were my friends have completely turned their back on me. And they'll put it on Facebook. They'll tell me about me, what they feel about me. That was somewhat of a shock at first, but then when I saw how it became cancer, then I expect it now. One thing I told somebody the other day in a meeting, I worked in homicide for 22 years. That means I'm going all over the United States, in some of the craziest cities, in some of the crazy back alleys, searching for that person who's killed someone. I have never been threatened as a homicide detective, ever. Now I'm threatened daily, verbally, on social media, and people are not hiding that, you know, and we have to understand these people putting their name, address, telephone number, and everything on this hate mail through social media. On August 24th of this year, for the very first time in the history of my life, I bought another gun. I didn't buy a gun when I was in homicide. I didn't buy a weapon when I was a Charlotte Mecklenberg police officer because I didn't think that the gun that they issued to me was enough. Now, I don't think it is. I walk into church with a gun. I go to the movies with a gun. If I'm grilling outside, I'm grilling with a gun. I have people to say, well, we should put a bullet in his head. This morning, I got this text message. Somebody shared it with the text message. As long as he is sheriff, we will spit on them. And they're talking about my deputies. So this is the life that I now live.
Since you made the stance on immigration, this is a result of all of that.
Right. And what the problem is, people don't understand immigration. They're taking it for what they believe that it is. And I have no problem saying it, and I hope it doesn't hurt your show. But ICE has the wrong approach of it. The nation has the wrong approach of it. And so if we can sit down and talk about it, we can, but I don't think we even can at this point because they have a stance that they're going to stand on, and I have a stance that I'm going to stand on. But I simply say this. If you find probable cause in what you believe against this person, take it before a federal magistrate or file a federal complaint and bring me a federal warrant, and I will house you. Today, I'm housing 461 federal inmates in the Mecklenberg County Detention Center. My numbers never go below 400. So I'm housing 400 federal inmates for the federal government as we speak now, and I will continuously to do that, but you have to bring me a paper signed by a judicial official, hopefully a federal judge.
I had to cut my phone off. You'd have caused my phone to blow up. But listen, so I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. You know, the purpose of this show is to talk about issues that are uncomfortable. The purpose of this show is to put information out into the community, out into the airways, social media, and different platforms. And so when you were coming today and we were thought about this show, I knew what we were going into. And here's what I said, and I share it with the men and women that produce this show, is that it's all right for people to disagree.
It certainly is.
We should disagree. That's where the growth comes in. That's us disagreeing, mixing this with that and adding this and taking away that. But I think that it's how we disagree that separates from humans versus those that don't have the ability to say, I may not agree with you, But my disagreement does not have to bring the venom. It does not have to bring the violence. It does not have to bring the threat level. And so when I decided to talk about this, people can agree with your stance, they can disagree with your stance, but I think it's very serious that we have conversation about we cannot raise to the level that we forget what we were created, you know. Each man has his right to speak his truth, stand on what they believe, you know, as long as it's legal.
It is. And the thing that shocks me more than anything else is the outright hate with this. And, you know, I took a stance on saying if you have a person who is undocumented, bring me proof of that. That's called probable cause. And if you take that probable cause before a magistrate, a federal magistrate, and you show him that, he should issue you a paper. I'm simply just protecting the citizens of my county. I'm just protecting the citizens who voted for me. But what we also don't understand is that it's a part of trust in the community. If we have people who reside in our community, whether they're documented or undocumented, who are victims of crimes, they should be able to report those crimes. And we simply have to say also, when they report those crimes to us and we take that report and we charge that person should stand accountable for their actions. But what you don't understand, when that person, and we talk about, and I can go there, we talk about the rapist who was in Charlotte, who they always attach me to this person who allegedly raped a child.
Made national news. I saw
national news.
Yeah, I saw you everywhere.
But here's what ICE didn't tell you. That they deported this same person in 2006. I don't know why they deported him. Nobody told me why they deported him in 2006. And so when they deported him, he came back in 2016. But he knew that if he had a child with him during that time, there was something called the Flores Act. A lot of people don't know about this, but it's the Flores Act, or the Flores Settlement allows this young man to come back to the border, and the border agents allow him back into the United States. Now, when they allowed him back into the United States, they put an ankle bracelet on him, saying that we know where you are in the United States. So they allowed this person who they previously deported in 2006 back into my county. They never notified me. They never called me, even said this was going on. So in 2016, when he's back, for 4 days after he's back in Mecklenberg County, he cuts off his ankle bracelet. At that particular time, that's a crime. Several crimes, if you want to be frank about it. But they never notified Mecklenburg County. So for 3 years, he's in my county doing what he wants to do. So then all of a sudden he gets arrested in 2019. He's charged with being arrested. They, charged with the crimes. So we simply they brought him down to the Mecklenburg County Detention Center, and my deputies asked the three questions. Are you a legal resident? Where do you live? Are you a U.S. citizen? No, no, no. Because he said no, no, no to all three of those questions, I am then contacting ICE to say we have a person who's undocumented or we can't determine his citizenship. I don't know anything about the 2016 encounter, and I definitely don't know about the 2006 encounter.
The law says you had to contact them.
And the law says that. And the law of North Carolina, North Carolina General Statute 162.62 mandates every sheriff in North Carolina to call ICE. I call that cooperation. So when we talk about cooperation comes both ways. Why didn't you cooperate and tell me this person is in my county? Why didn't you tell me in 2016 we are releasing this person in your county? So when we go about that, people forget that. All they see is that, or they say that Sheriff McFadden is releasing people back into the Mecklenburg County or the city of Charlotte. But they have to understand this too. I do not set the bond. I do not set the bail. But once a person meets all the condition of their bail or bond set by a judicial official, a magistrate or a judge, and they met all this condition, then I am under authority to release him at that point. And so when ICE says, well, can't you simply hold him? I asked them again to bring me a document signed by a federal judge, and I'll hold him like I'll hold in all these other 460 federal inmates.
So how do you deal with the pressure? Because I know I talk with you, I see you, I see your name on every other news feed, seem like every other conversation. And I wonder, how do you deal with that pressure every day? I mean, I wouldn't know what it's like to be cooking out with a pistol in my pocket. I wouldn't know what it's like to be everywhere I went, everywhere I go, I felt like I had to have a handgun. I know, as you said, working as a homicide detective, you never had been threatened before, but now here you are as the sheriff of the largest county in the state of North Carolina, in the great state of North Carolina, that you're being threatened. I just find that blows my mind, because that is a lot of pressure, because you are actually out there. You are an easy target. I mean, you everywhere. I see you everywhere.
Well, one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to hide. Once my family and I realize that it is true hate out there, nobody's going to stand up for us. Everybody say they got my back, but that's a joke. You got my back, and I'm sure you do, because I can't see you. And so we took a stance to say we have to take care of each other. We've always said that in my family, my immediate family. And so we're prepared for the battle. We're prepared for the war. And people may say that's a challenge. No, it's not. It's just that I'm being precautious, and I know what I'm up against. I know when I go in a restaurant where I need to sit. I scan the restaurant like I always do, which we actually had a game with my kids at a younger age. We would sit down with them 8, 9, and 10 years old, and we had this game called What If? What if it happens right now? What if somebody comes out that kitchen? What if somebody does this? So at the age of 10, which my kids are now in their 30s, we played these games. So pretty much we prepared for this years ago, not knowing it would ever reach this point. But I'll tell you that I'm comfortable who I am. I'm going to be comfortable out. I'm going to go to my restaurants. I'm going to go in the city. And then if there's a battle, there's a battle.
Well, I get that, but you know what? Nobody should have to exist like that. Nobody should have to live like that. I mean, you're the sheriff of Mecklenberg County.
But do they respect that?
Well, here's the thing, the point that I'm trying to get across is that, and I said it before, is that it's how we disagree. You know, we talk about, the elephant in the room. When we decided we was going down this road with this podcast, we wanted to talk about issues because that's where the magic takes place, at conversation. We've got to be able to sit across from one another, whether we're sitting across from one another at this blue line or we're sitting across from one another this imaginary line. We've got to sit and talk our disagreements out. We've got to come to a place to where we remove the violence from. I think that in this time and space that we're living in, we are too divided as people, as citizens. And at some point in time, we've got to realize that we all come from different places, different thoughts, all different walks of life. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's where, again, the diversity, the magic takes place, that we all think from different places. No one person has the market corner on their way of thinking. No. That's what makes this country so great, is that we all have the ability to be heard, we the people, for the people. And you have a right to take your stance. If your stance is legal, thus says the court, then you have a right to do that. And so I feel I'm saddened that, and the things you're telling me, I had no idea some of the things you're telling me, that this is normal for you. That alone to me would be just...
For me, it's normal. For me, it's normal. But something that you said that's very important, diversity. And here's why I think that I'm in a good place, because I can disagree with someone and still be with them. And I'm trying to find out what year, but here's how my life went around. While working for Charlotte Mecklenberg Police Department, I was security for the NAACP for about 20 years nationally, working on a national security team for about 20 years. That same year, a convention came to Charlotte, another convention, and me working with that convention allowed me to work with that segment of the community for 2 years. That segment of the community was the NRA. So imagine working for the NAACP, which we believe is one side of the coin, and working for the security detail for the NRA. And here's what my job was. When Charlton Heston raised the rifle and said, from my cold, dead hands, I was with him. I was with him at the National NRA Convention in Charlotte as his personal security detail, and I was with him in Houston on his personal security detail. When I wasn't with Charlton Heston, I was with Wayne Pierre, who was the leader of the NRA. So imagine dancing in these two arenas at the same time. You see what they're doing, you see what they're doing, but being able to still be the same person that I am today. So the diversity comes in, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. But it is a shame, and I'm not going to take that for granted. It is a shame that in 2019, I see more racism, I see more hate than I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's sad to say that I'm comfortable with it in my life because I have accepted it. They're not going to see this because this is what they want. When I say they, this is one side of the coin. And the other side says the same thing. This is what you should expect. But it is sad. But sad to say, but I'm comfortable in it. I live with it every day. I'm still cautious. I'm still a vibrant leader. And I'm not hiding in the community. But here's what the community has to do also. Invite me and I will come. But allow me to have a conversation with you about why I'm taking a stance. Some people don't even want to have that conversation because they're so embedded into their thoughts and their generational hatred that this is where they're going to remain. And if I can't change that, I'm not going to sit there every day and try to pound my head to change it, but I'm good with it.
Well, I respect what you're saying, but I have to interject. I don't never want us to be comfortable with the divide. I think we should be uncomfortable with the divide because I'm not comfortable when one segment sits here and one segment sits there. That makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to be comfortable when we all sit at the table, you know, in this metaphor that Martin talked about, regardless of color of the skin, regardless of your race, but the content of your character. That's when I'm going to be comfortable. It's uncomfortable to me to know that someone has a viewpoint to where they dislike you so much that they don't want you to breathe. That's uncomfortable to me. It's uncomfortable to me that we're divided in this country. That's very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable that as men and women, leaders of this great country and of this great state, we have children that are watching our actions.
Of course,
and you know, we are accountable for our actions. We are accountable for raising them. They need us now. The future needs us now. And so I want to be able to a place to where men and women can sit and disagree. We can disagree. But I'm not going to hate you or disagree with you so much that I want to do something to you. I'm not going to hate you or disagree with you to the point where I want to send you text messages or something crazy or something ugly. I think that we are beyond that. I think that our intellectual capabilities as human beings should allow us to be able to sit like adults and disagree. And at the end of our disagreements, we walk away, we shake hands, and keep it in what I will call a non-threatening tone.
I think we should. And I wish I could use an example of a friend of mine, and you don't want to call his name because I haven't got his approval to call his name. He is 110% Republican. He takes care of a few congressmen here in North Carolina. He stood and has sent me many pictures of him standing beside President Trump. He's going to come to Charlotte in 2020. I look forward for him to come to Charlotte. I look forward to him taking care of him because he's going to be in my county. I wish I could take our concept and make a movie out of it and say, this is how it's supposed to be. When I met him, it was dealing with some congressmen, and that same congressman, if anything goes on, you know, Sheriff McFadden, we applaud you. That he was one of the congressmen that sent me a letter the day that I got in office and welcomed me to the struggles of, you know, the political powers and all this kind of stuff. And to this day, he has not said one word against me or in another direction. And, and I sent a message to him, when you get to Charlotte, let me know how I can take care of you, because when they come, they're going to be in my county for the Republican National Convention. And, we have to protect these people. And I take pride in that. But with our friendship, and I can say that, when he's in my county and he was doing voter registration, I applaud him. And he said, I'm out here sweating and everything. And I love that because I understand his stance. He understands my stance. But we don't let that break our friendship or relationship. And if we can get to that, and, and when I'm saying I'm comfortable, it's not that I'm comfortable with what's happening. I'm comfortable knowing that I'm not scared. I'm not uptight about it. I'm just comfortable in this is how I have to live in this environment of protecting me, my family, and anybody else. So I'm comfortable knowing that I have to take that task on every day. But again, I'm not comfortable, and I'm glad you pointed that out, in the way that we treat each other as sheriffs, as chiefs, or people on a political agenda. I hate it. I hate the way that we are now in North Carolina as sheriffs, and people don't want to talk about it. But some people think that we're all right. We're not. Some people think that we're strong. Some parts may believe that we're strong, but we're not that 100 that everybody talks about. I can tell you that.
So two things I want to speak to. When you first come in the door downstairs, there's a sign and it says, it's not black, it's not white, it's not Republican, nor Democrat or independent. It's what's right. And so I think that as a leader, as a person, just forget leader. This is a person. At the end of the day, you can't run an office based on, you can't run a black office in Charlotte. You can't run a Democrat office in Charlotte. You can't run a Republican office in Charlotte, nor independent, because you serve all the people of Charlotte, right?
You're correct.
All the people, right? And so I say that because so many times we let the adjectives, the things that describe us, direct us. We let the things that have really, at the end of the day, have no significance of nothing. It doesn't. Because if you need help, you don't care what I am.
You're right.
You don't.
You're absolutely
And so
right.
Why do we allow things to separate us? And I know that we gravitate toward a lot of different things. We identify with so many things in life. That's just human nature. We identify with familiarity. But I think that we've got to move to a place where we all matter. We all have a voice. We all have a say, whether we agree, whether we disagree, whether I like what you say and whether I don't. Because we are in this together.
We are.
I know they say there's life in the outer space, but I don't think that I'll ever experience that. I don't think that you will. So the life that we have here is right here on earth. And we got to figure out a way, how do we do it better than what we're doing? I'm disturbed by what I see. I'll be honest with you. I'm disturbed by what you said about how you're treated. I don't have a problem with people voicing their opinion. I don't like what your position is. I don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem when we take it to certain levels. I have a problem when we move away from the table. As long as we're talking, any negotiator would tell you in a hostage negotiator situation, if we're talking, we got a chance.
We got a chance.
The moment communication breaks down, there's a problem. So I think we've got to go back to this dialogue. We've got to go back to sitting at the table. And we've got to go back to, we're all human beings. You sitting across from this table give the people that are watching and hearing this a chance to hear you and see you, to know that you are a human being. You are a man with a wife, kids. You are a citizen. You have served the city of Charlotte. You've served this country. You've done a lot of great things. You put many programs together. I think that we've got to find a way, whether it's in leadership, whether it's in everyday citizens, to realize that we in this together.
We are. I'll tell you something I did last year when I first got in office. Got in office December 3rd, 4th. And I said, okay, it's like you said, it's not black, it's not white, it's not man, it's not woman, it's everything else. We're in this together. Last year, Christmas, I invited every deputy who was riding on the streets that day who had to work on Christmas Day to come to my house and eat. It started off with 3 or 4 deputies, then it got to be 5, and then at one point we had 12 deputies eating at my house. And it was, from all over the county. Everybody in the county, you came. At the end of the day, we fed 45 deputies at my table, at my home, served by me and my family. My in-laws live in Greensboro, and they both are 80 years old now, but they look like they're 25. And so they were there help serving us, and we got into a conversation. And what I realized, when they were all at the table eating, everybody lost a sense of who they were, what they were about, and everything else. All they wanted to do is eat and talk and have a good time. And we talked about that this whole year. So the guy says, are we going to do it again this year? I said, no, we're not going to do it. And they said, why do you mean? I said, we can't do Christmas because I'm in Greensboro with my in-laws Christmas, but I'll do Thanksgiving. The word went out that I was going to have Thanksgiving dinner at my house. I have men and women who I never thought would come to my house and eat. One young man said he's not working that day. He wants to bring his family. Another young man told me standing in my front yard, he says, by standing here, like you said, Sheriff, standing here having that conversation changed my whole outlook and perception. He says, I'll tell you to your face, I didn't vote for you. Now, this is a deputy of mine. But he says, coming to your house on Saturday morning to check on you because of these threats. When he heard the threats, it bothered him. And so he comes and checks on us when he's out. And he said, because of these threats and the way that you treat me every day has changed my life. This past Saturday, we were in an autism walk because of him. When he saw me, he wanted me to go to the stage with him because, he's one of the sponsors. And so, like you said, if we can sit down and just talk, we may disagree on a lot. With this young man, some of the stuff that he disagreed with me on, when I showed him the light and the facts, he said, I was never told that. And I said, probably because there was never a chance for somebody to tell you. It's always, well, don't listen to that. This is what it is. And like you said, if we can have that chance of having a conversation at the table, I think that we can change a lot. But give me the luxury or give me the chance to have that conversation, and don't judge me by what you see or read in the media. Have the conversation with me. Then after that, you take it for what it's worth.
I like that. As we draw toward the end, the close, me personally, I don't care what the men and the women are here in terms of their party affiliation. Never asked them. Don't care if they voted or not. Who they voted for is irrelevant to me. I think that across this country, the men and women that serve in this capacity of law enforcement, they serve because they have a genuine spirit of love and human and serving and protecting. Like you said, the man said he didn't vote for you, but he was bothered that someone threatened you. That's because he had compassion for you as a human being. And I think that we've got to have compassion for everyone as a human being, regardless of race, color, creed, sexual preference, or what their party affiliation is, because we are stronger together. No one man is greater than the people. At the end of the day, as you heard me say, we serve the people. And so I want to say this, and then I guess I'll let you say anything you want to say before we close, is that I've enjoyed talking with you today. It's been very enlightening. It's been very moving. I'm sorry that you're having to live your life in that kind of space or that kind of heightened awareness, because that is stress and that is stressful. I challenge the men and women that are listening to this podcast to take a moment and look at some things from an objective perspective. See it in a 360 view. And then once you do that, say, how can I make it better? How can I bring us closer, not further apart? Because we all need each other, just like the fingers on the hand.
We do.
We need each other. because, as the great Martin said, what directly affects one indirectly affects others. So I applaud you for all the things you're doing down at your detention center, the work you're doing in the great state. Well, let me stop saying that.
Yeah, it's a great state.
No, it's really not.
It's Charlotte, Mecklenburg.
No, it's
largest people in the world.
Yeah, whatever. But I applaud you for what you're doing in Mecklenburg County. Because, you and I always disagree on which county is better. Because, I tell you that Forsyth is the better county.
It is?
Without question. So,
who cars look the best?
I don't really know because I don't keep up with that. I don't care about no cars. I'm talking
How
about
many banks do y'all have here?
I stopped counting, man, last week. We had so many, I stopped counting.
And the headquarters for BOA, that's Bank of America and Wells Fargo.
I don't even know what we don't value the size and big buildings, all that. We talking about the quality of the men and women. You know what I mean? That's here. The love that we have here in the
y'all got a lot of love.
Yeah, y'all keep that madness down there, Charlotte. Y'all keep that down there. Because I don't want it up here. Y'all keep that down there. Just leave us right here in Forsyth County, right? Let's do that for me. If you look here, if you put that fence up around Charlotte.
No, we like to come to Forsyth County.
And you keep it down there and leave us alone in Forsyth.
Y'all have a little money here. You got like something called R.J. Reynolds.
I don't know, but listen, and, just do me a favor.
Z Reynolds Foundation.
Yeah, just keep it down in Charlotte. We good up here. We good. But I thank you for coming up. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, I enjoyed this, and if people want to hear it again or hear more, I think that we can sit here and talk. And I appreciate you inviting me. It was a good day. I told my city that I'm leaving at 12, and then somebody came in the office with an issue. Then I couldn't leave till about 1:45. But if people want this conversation to continue, we can. And let us enlighten you on things that you may not know. Small things that people don't know. You don't have to have a driver's license while you're walking down the street. Or what do you do when an officer approaches you? Do you know when you are under arrest or being detained? And so all these things, I think that it's moments for us and you and these microphones to enlighten people and talk to people about this and start the conversation where people don't want to have the conversation. And we may invite somebody who may not agree with us, but still can enlighten them on why they view that point. We may change some lives.
Trust me, the phone is blowing up. Trust me, you gonna probably hear some people. Trust me, you gonna get a lot of feedback, and I'm sure I am too. So I'm sure the conversation is not over. That you can be assured of.
But let's have the conversation without violence. Let's have the conversation without hate. And
I like that.
When we get up from the table, let's laugh and joke and touch each other and say, "Man, I'll see you next week when we talk about it again." And that happened in Charlotte.
Yeah.
When we had an incident up what they call the lake.
Yeah.
I went up there and did some enforcement.
I saw that where you writing tickets.
Yeah, we we were enforcing the speed limit, a certain part of Jaton Avenue, which is where the $1 million house is. So the whole conversation was, well, why didn't you notify us, or why you didn't tell the local police department? I said, well, if you got 5 sheriff deputy cars out on the road, somebody should come out there and ask us what's going on. So when I went before the town board, it wasn't about that everybody was 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. It was that you didn't notify us that you were writing tickets. So that got a lot of news attention and everything else. But I'm here to tell the listeners from the lake area and everything, me and the mayors of Huntersville, Davidson, and Cornelius all go to breakfast and talk about that's behind us.
Let's move forward.
And let's move forward, and let me help you. And so, believe it or not, since that time, each of those mayors have asked me to come and help with enforcement in their cities. And so that's what our conversation about every month now is, how can we help each other? If they have a festival, we're going to supply the deputies. If they have an issue in a neighborhood where their officers can't ride through as often as their citizens need them to ride through, my deputies go through. So we've put that behind us, but some people still harboring that, so they can't go to breakfast with us.
So I want you to know I appreciate you. I see another show in your future because every time I cut the TV on or the news, I see you, right? But I gotta jig you one more time before we go, right?
Go ahead.
So when we leave here, I'm going to take you downstairs and let you see our CID unit, criminal investigation.
I don't need to see that.
I'm going to let you see what we do in the big city.
No, I know you have something that you call the sitting room. It's a sitting room.
No, sir, we don't have a sitting room.
Okay. Maybe it's called a situation room that you have in the sitting room. It's a sitting room. Some room that you got a little bit of cameras and stuff, and you're looking, all through the city. So we understand that.
Actually, we don't do that, sir. But I'm going to take you around and give you a tour of a premier law enforcement agency. And
so how big is your detention center?
I'm going to give you a notebook and let you take some notes.
We have a 3,000.
We don't have that much crime going on.
Okay, but we have the space. We have the space just in case something happens.
We don't have that much crime going on.
Well, we have 3,000 bed facility because some parts I may open up for the homeless when the weather gets bad.
Good comeback. Good comeback.
Just in case, we're moving.
That's
ahead.
Creative thinking. I
it
give
is.
You that. That's creative thinking.
We only have 1,500 men and women who are previously now incarcerated there, but the other 1,500 beds, maybe we may utilize that space for our citizens who are less fortunate.
We don't have all that going on here, sir.
So you don't take care of your...
No, so I'm saying we don't have all that crime you got going on.
No, this is not crime. These are people who are unfortunate because of the minimum wage of $7.25 that they can't facilitate for their families. So we're helping them.
We don't have a 3,000 bed facility. Okay. I don't foresee us needing one.
We don't need it either.
Y'all listen. What I'm gonna say is how we gonna end this. Y'all keep that down in Charlotte. We good up here in Forsyth.
But I am invited back, right?
Oh, of course you invited back.
That's all I want to know.
Appreciate you. And as always, meet us at the table off the cuffs where we talk about the elephant in the room. I really enjoyed this, and welcome for coming.
Thank you.
Please come back.
I am coming back.
Please come back.
I am coming back. I know the way here.